And you're listening to Radio Flange Goblet.
Please let me touch it.
What?
Please let me touch it.
No, go away.
Oh, go on, let me touch it.
Stop being weird, stop it.
Please, I just want to touch it a little bit.
No, you're not allowed to touch it.
You let her touch it, why not me? I just want to touch it.
Of course I let her touch it, but no, not you.
Let me touch it.
No, stop it, put your hands away.
Touchy, touchy, touchy.
Oh, you're just weird.
Go on, you know you want me to touch it.
All right, you can touch it, but just a little bit. Okay, so you're listening to Radio... Stop it, I said a little bit. You're listening to Radio Flange Goblet, and now it's time for the After Movie Diner. All right, go on. Touch it again.
Hello.
Hi.
I like the murals on the walls.
Good, right? Hello and welcome to yet another After Movie Diner episode, and we're in an all-new diner this week. We're in the Goldmine Cafe, which is also in my neighborhood of 231st and Broadway in New York City, and I am here with my regular co-host, Mr. Jim Wallace.
Hello.
And wonderful to have you back up here in the Bronx, sir. It's always a pleasure when you come visit my little corner of the world.
It's always a pleasure to visit your little corner of the world.
And how have you been? We haven't had you on the show for a week. So
I've been well. I've been enjoying your diner road trips.
Yeah, wasn't that great? Went up to New England.
Cool. Yeah, I hope there are more of them in the future. So as long as people keep buying our albums and donating to the diner, there will be more of them.
Oh yeah, no. The more people donate to the show, either through Patreon over at patreon.com/aftermoviediner, or by buying the latest album, Bad Time Banjalele. Or even just by buying the 5-song EP that I recorded up in New England.
Only $2.50.
Which is only $2.50 on Bandcamp, which is miskplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. As long as you keep doing that, then...
every penny of it goes into an account.
It does. It all goes to fund After Movie Diner Tour, basically. But yeah, so we're up here in the Bronx because yet again we find ourselves bereft of any cinema-going movies.
Bereft? There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's all like arty crap. There's no like decent, like, you know, I don't know.
Well, the last one that we saw, we haven't put up yet, which is Vendetta.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good. But that was in a weird art house cinema. But the usual, you used to have ones on the AMC in Times Square. That's
right. And well, we saw Big Game. Big Game.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I will shut my face. That would probably be best.
No, I'm just saying there have been some. It's just. It's too few. We haven't had a nice run of them, is what I mean.
That's very true.
That's very true.
So we find ourselves up in the Bronx,
having watched something on DVD,
yes,
which still counts, because
course,
as long as we come to a diner,
it's an after movie diner. It's not an after cinema.
No, see.
And we've done it before. We've done it before. And in this case, we watched something that you picked up from a convention, right?
I picked it up from Philly Comic Con from the, and I forget what they're called, but they're VHS guys who basically. Dupe VHS down onto DVDs, and this particular movie was a slasher film because I'm a big fan of late 70s, early 80s slasher films.
I didn't used to be, but I've come around. I don't remember when I came around exactly, but at some point I started being quite fond of slasher films, having previously not cared for them at all. I don't think I've seen Halloween since I started enjoying slasher films.
Oh really?
Yeah. I used to love Nightmare on Elm Street when I was a kid. Like, I loved Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
And I can't remember what movie it was. It's probably watching them with you, I guess. That, given the amount of like terrible horror films we've seen, slasher films at least have the benefit of having some element of urgency and like regular action to them.
But yeah, I don't quite know why I like. I mean, because my two favourite horror subgenres are probably zombie movies and slasher movies.
Right.
And I will literally watch any slasher movie. I mean, as witnessed by tonight's choice, which was called Fatal Games.
Fatal Games. What an excellent title. You know? Fatal Games. I mean, it sums it all up, you know?
Basically, it was...
So catchy.
Yeah, it was a gymnast academy.
Do you want to try? Okay, well, first of all, let's start with, as we always do, should you watch the film? And the answer is no, right? We can be pretty firm on this.
I don't know.
Listening to the podcast will not spoil your enjoyment.
Oh, no. Listening to the podcast will not spoil
I mean,
your
you'd have trouble getting hold of it. I mean, maybe it's on YouTube, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. But given the, we're only watching a copy that you managed to get hold of on DVD from the thing like you.
Yeah, but there's a lot of those people.
We're still.
I know what I want.
Oh, you know what you want? Oh, I don't know what I want.
That's why I came over, because I could see his...
Yeah, you can see him and his little...
He closed his menu, so I was like, oh, he wants to...
He knows.
It's all good.
Okay.
Don't worry, don't rush.
Yeah, I'll come
A
back.
couple of minutes is all
Just pull
good.
me over, okay?
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
Sorry, everyone. So why don't you tell us quickly about the plot while I figure out what the fuck the hell I'm going to eat? Oh,
Okay.
I never swear.
It's fine, don't worry about it. So, as far as I could figure it, a bunch of 45-year-old alcoholics were all at a gymnast academy that I couldn't work out if it was meant to be a high school age, because there was also her father was hanging around telling her that she also had to do her homework, which seemed particularly overbearing and pointless if it was a university and or post-grad course.
You're
anyway.
you're recounting the plot even worse than I did.
No, I'm just explaining. I had no idea what age group this was meant to be.
I think they're supposed to be
But there are
18,
people-
19 years old.
All right, but they're clearly 45-year-old alcoholics with
Where
all
do
the
you get that
with
from?
all the athletic ability
No, they're a bunch
of
of
a ham sandwich.
They're a bunch of early 20s actors, none of whom know how to do anything even vaguely sport-like, because if they did, they wouldn't be actors.
I guess
So
so.
some of the things they do are genuinely hilarious.
Hilarious. Anyway,
There are approximations.
So basically, there is someone killing people at this academy with a javelin. Red herrings are thrown about like an angry fisherman after a particular red herring catch. Because absolutely everybody is set up to be a potential killer, which is always a trait of a slasher film. As far as we could figure it, there were 4 people on the faculty, one of whom was a mad doctor that was pumping children full of steroids without telling anyone really what was going in their bodies, which was kind of disturbing. One was a nurse, one was a swimming instructor, and one was a general kind of baseball-wearing schlubby coach, who you said ended up being also the writer
He's the
and
writer and producer of the movie. Oh, by the way, his acting style was... he only had one thing, and what he would do is he would say something, and then he would turn away and shake his head slowly while walking away. And every scene he did, he ended by turning away, walking away slowly while shaking his head like that. No matter what he said.
Right. So you've got the whodunit aspect of all good slashers. You've got the person is prowling the...
Thank you very much for your
What have
patience.
you decided?
I'm going to get the New York chicken wrap.
Got it. You want fries with that or no, you're good?
No, just the wrap's fine.
Okay, and you're okay with the water?
Actually, can I get a chamomile tea?
Sure.
Lovely, thank you very much.
You want milk with that? Tea, or you
No,
want
thanks,
lemon?
no. No, just plain.
Okay, got it. You sir?
yeah, can I get ham, egg and fries? Just regular ham, 2 fried eggs, sunny side up. And
Wait. So what, 2 eggs of ham,
Yeah.
French fries, what kind of toast?
French fries. No toast.
No toast.
I'm fine the way it is.
Okay, great. And would you like something to drink?
No, water's good.
Got it. Thank
Thanks
you.
so
Thank
much.
you very much, cheers. I didn't know what it was. Okay.
So you have, hang on a second. So you have the slasher aspect of the whodunit. You have the person with the javelin stalking the corridors of this school, to all intents and purposes, after dark. No one ever turns on any lights ever.
No. They're very energy efficient.
They are very energy efficient in this school. Then you have this weird subplot that he's juicing everybody in the school.
No.
Then you have,
Sorry.
Then you have the subplot, the juicing of everyone in the school. Then you have the random little subplots that set up everyone's red herringness, which we can get into. And well, they're all gearing up to go to the Olympics. Essentially, they've got the nationals to get through and some other.
They're all qualifying for the nationals. What happens is everybody has some kind of a race, and then they win the race, and then the significant other of that person runs up to them, jumps into their arms, and goes, "You did it! You won! You made the nationals! Yeah, I did it! I won! I made the nationals!" And that's how you knew that they'd made the nationals.
Right.
And they're all on their way to the Olympics because this is 83, right? I think the movie's 83.
I don't know.
So either way, or maybe even 84, it was released in 84. Either way, it's the LA Olympics, it's 84. That's why it was made.
Right.
Okay, what happened was this, right?
Hang on. You're going to go into
I have a theory though.
hypothesis.
No, but I have an amazing theory.
I don't even know that it came out in 84.
No, it did. It was 84.
So
it was on IMDb.
You
It
looked
said
it up?
83, but that means it probably came out in 84. And if not, it came out with like everyone talking about the Olympics.
Right.
Because Moscow is 80.
But hang on.
Usually we have chamomile, but we don't.
Green?
Huh? Green tea?
Green? Yeah, that'd be fine. Thank you very much.
But the other thing that we need to mention, lastly, before you go into your wild hypothesis of what might have happened, which I know you love to do with these things, and I like hearing them because there's often a
I don't know if you noticed the quotes around the word "like" he used, and I said, "I like when you do it.
Yeah. Well, I let you have free
I
reign.
like when you do it."
As co-host, I figure you can have free reign of doing it. But the other thing we should mention is that it is a wild kind of ride of mix of genres. There is the frat house. There is the
It's more like Home and Away or something.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say.
Sorry. Thank you very much.
There's elements of it that are very much like a kind of Porky's frat house sex romp, which, to be fair, the sex romp of the 80s and the slasher film of the 80s do follow very similar lines. They're both low-budget genres. They both have a lot of like nudity, high school elements to them. And so on and so forth. So there's a lot of crossover anyway, but this one had a particularly
Well,
kind
because it
of...
started off like Porky's.
Yeah, it started off like a kind of bonkers bananas...
The first 5 minutes was like training montages from like from video for, hey, come train at the World Practiced Academy.
Yeah.
Like...
We've got some parallel bars and some chalk.
Yeah, it almost looked like an advert from like the 1980s.
The best thing, we'll get on to this, but so you have the slasher element, you had the sex romp element, and you had the home and away element, the neighbours element, the general hospital element, like name your soap opera. There was plenty of soap and plenty of opera being flung around liberally. Often you would watch these scenes with a view to, wait a minute, there's going to be a point here, but no. So that was kind of interesting.
But there would be a pause. Every time anybody said anything in the soap opera scene, there was an uncomfortable pause before the actor responded, as if none of them had any clue what they were doing. Which...
And it also had that wonderful element, and this is fast becoming my favourite aspect of either inexperienced, low-budget and or independent filmmaking of any era, and that is where the writer and or the filmmaker feels intently important about extraneous detail that every other type of movie would just get rid of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They in this movie, they take pains to set up stuff you just don't care about. I mean, especially around the red herringness. There was a bunch of scenes, right, in the middle of the movie where I suddenly realised, that's what he's doing. These are all the little scenes that go, well, he could be the killer because he's like angry he didn't win the Olympics, and she could be the killer because she has a lesbian girlfriend who really wants to be on the swim team, and various other, extraneous details.
What I like is on the back of the DVD, it lists why they might be the killers. Like the doctor runs a crazy doping program. The coach trains everyone too hard. It's better about missing out the Olympics. And then it said the nurse who takes her wild psychological theories into the bedroom, which never happened.
Well,
and then it goes, and the lesbian. That's enough to be a murderer. You're being a lesbian. We don't know what they're thinking.
In 1983, that was enough, I think.
We don't know what's going on in their heads. Could be murder.
But it was odd because...
Shall I kiss a girl? Shall I pick up a javelin and stab someone?
One of the things that I'd recently picked up on Blu-ray, because Scream Factory have released all 3 of them now, and I was waiting for all 3 to become available before I picked them up. And that was the Sleepaway Camp series. Now, Sleepaway Camp is obviously famous for the kind of not only the gender swap, but also the sort of, what's the word? Kind of interesting take on sexuality, because there is a lot of like open homosexual stuff in there, and various questions of like gender and children and things like that was sort of it's become famous for. It's like one of those things that it's got all sorts of stuff in that movie. And this movie, while it isn't anywhere near as good as Sleepaway Camp, so please don't expect me to be saying that. All I'm going to say to it is there is, without spoiling too much, there is a sleepaway camp element to this film in terms of the way it deals with sexuality and gender. That's all I'm saying.
Wow, that's generous. There's nothing going on in this film apart from the fact that my guess is two people who had no idea how to write or direct film decided the Olympics are coming up.
Right.
Wouldn't it be neat to make a slasher film where the killer used a javelin?
Right.
And after that conversation, instead of sitting there for like 10 or 15 minutes longer and thinking, no, you know that's crap, they immediately went. So I can only see like a room full of gullible people with too much money, and got enough money to make this movie. And then they went to their school academy thing, and that's all they had. That's all they had. And everything in it that they thought was like, oh yeah, the whole thing reeks, right, of so I could while I was watching the film, I could see the two of them sitting down at the table going, writing's easy. This is easy. Look, we'll make them think that he's the killer because this, and there were so many things that none of it connected to any, no scene connected to any other scene.
But it all made sense in the end.
No, okay, first of all, explain the newspaper headline to me. Explain the paper that runs that headline.
Oh, wait a minute, what are you talking about?
Right at the end, where it's like revealed who the killer is.
Tim, in a reality where these people are America's next hope for the gold, I believe there's a newspaper that prints the headline, whatever it was about.
Yeah, maybe, I guess.
Transgender person, whatever.
Well, thank you very much.
That's perfect, thank you.
Thank you, lovely.
Please let me know if you need anything.
Will do. Thank you very much. Very nice.
So, yeah, things like that don't bother me. Like, why is there that newspaper headline?
No, I just
well, because it has to reveal the twist at the end.
Actually, I enjoyed the newspaper headline enormously because I love the idea of the guys going, we need some way of letting them know what's going on quickly. It was full of, and you're right, most of the film was taken up with getting people out of a room so that if they were killed, nobody would notice.
Right.
But the whole idea, like, a week goes by where people at this school are getting killed and disappearing off the face of the earth, and nobody calls the police. Nobody.
No. But the parents have. The parents file a missing persons report. One of the parents of one of the students.
And how many policemen?
But the best line in the whole thing was when the guy was on the phone and he was like, her parents haven't even heard from her today. And I'm like, well, would parents hear from their kids every single day? I mean, I don't know. Is that a thing? And some were living with their parents and others weren't. And some were talking about moving in together and getting married. And I'm like, well, I don't know how old any of these people are or what they're doing at all.
Right, so that's what I mean. Like,
they could have all been 45 and alcohol.
They sat down and they wrote each scene according to
what they needed,
what they thought was neat in that scene.
Right.
None of it makes a lick of sense. And every single bit of it where somebody wasn't being killed with a javelin was unbelievably boring. I will say this though, other than the swimming pool bit, okay, there are two problems I have with the javelin thing. One, the swimming pool bit.
It's horribly cumbersome.
Well, yes, but at no point did they do the one thing, surely, that the whole movie was crying out for. Because the number, there's so many times.
Impaling someone on it?
No.
Through the head?
No. There should have been a bit. They were all running through the school the whole time.
Right.
So at some point they need to run out of the school.
Right.
And down the field, and then the javelin guy launches the javelin.
Well, you already did that with the Joe guy. He killed Joe.
No, but we didn't see that because Joe was like, that was supposed to be like a big shot.
But then we saw him all the way over.
No, well that's true, but you didn't see him do it. Like there wasn't. I'm saying, yes, the javelin was thrown from a long distance, right? But I mean, they were when they were running away from the javelin guy.
Right.
The javelin guy should have killed when they'd run far away and was still running.
Well, the javelin guy should have turned on a light and picked up something easier to kill people with than a javelin.
Okay. Can we give away the identity of the killer? Because I guessed it after 5 minutes anyway.
Well, I'd rather not, but alright, if you must.
Well, we don't have to, but I can't believe anybody's going to seek this out on YouTube
No, but I don't know.
I'm not saying there weren't good things about the movie, but was who the killer was really like a key part of it for you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and I think it explains the javelin. Because the whole movie I was like, Jesus, why the javelin? And then the explanation at the end explains the javelin. I was quite happy about that. I have very low expectations with slasher movies too. As long as it all ties up in the end. Do you know what was hilarious though? It's because of the way it ends, where, let's just say for argument's sake, our final girl is being chased by the javelin killer, right? While stabbed in the side. The javelin killer comes through the roof. They wrestle for like 30 seconds and she falls off the top of the scaffolding, which had been placed earlier in one of the most cumbersome and obvious setup scenes of all time.
It was funny because they didn't even try and justify the shot.
No.
Right? There was, what was it, 30 seconds wrong? 45 seconds?
Right.
There were two guys that basically looked like Cheech and Chong, who never reappeared in the movie.
No. A couple of teams.
Slowly hauled a bit of scaffolding
Yeah.
exactly into the centre of the frame,
Yeah.
behind a table,
Yeah.
fiddle it around with it for a bit, and then wander off.
Yeah.
And then cut to like another part of it, like
Right.
the
For
canvas
ages.
completely.
Right.
And the time was all over the shop. You'd like leave
So-
people in one room,
Yeah,
and then
they
cut
just-
to the same people in a totally different location
Yeah.
the next evening or
Right.
something. And I was like, what? Are these the same people? What's
Right.
going on?
So, I have a point on that in a minute, but my point about the very end is, nobody else but our final girl knows who the killer is. Right?
Right.
Nobody else.
Right.
Now, there is that newspaper, but that still doesn't mean she kills people. That just means...
Yeah.
So when everyone bursts in at the end, why is it immediately assumed that our final girl is the innocent one? She could quite easily be the murderer.
Well, she could, but at that point... the
We
film-
know she isn't.
Yeah, but at that point the
I'm
film
saying-
ends.
No, I know, but I'm saying the rest of our cast. Anyway.
Well, I see what you're saying, but the guy that wrote this film, and he has a face because we saw him act badly throughout the whole thing.
He has a face. What, the guy who wrote this film might not have a
Maybe
face?
you never know what they look like, you know, and he was...
Right. It was a cash-in, you're right. It was a cash-in with the
Which
Olympics.
is fine, I don't have a problem
And
with
the fact
that. But
that
everything
Sasha-
apart, like, the actual javelin deaths were really cool. Well, the first two were really cool.
And the soundtrack got pretty mental at times.
The soundtrack was alright.
The ending climax was really good. I enjoyed that a lot.
Really? The ending?
Yeah, where the music was going like... It was going like really industrial and crazy. And she was doing lots of chasing about. I like that.
I didn't see there was a lot of chasing. She ran into a room, and she ran around the room for a bit. Then she hid. And then the
they
woman
did
ran
that
in.
again.
And that was it.
All right. Well, you weren't as impressed as I was. I wasn't
Right.
impressed.
You were right.
But you weren't as... You were ready to give up on this movie within the first 10
Okay, yeah,
minutes.
be fair.
And I said, let's just wait
After
and
you
at
listen-
least see the
listen.
first 10.
Anyone listening out there, after 10 minutes of this movie, you'd be like, I'm not watching this. There was 5 minutes of non-stop training montages.
Well, I want to go through this bit by bit, but yeah, carry on.
Non-stop training montages. And then the home and away soap opera stuff. No, it went terrible training montages, like Porky's, like, you know,
Ill-advised.
shower scene, nudity stuff. It was like really weird.
Dude, you're missing out the weirdest bit of the whole movie. The bit of the whole movie where you were like, this can't possibly lead anywhere good. So anyway,
Which bit of the movie was that?
I'll get to it in a minute. The most hilarious thing about the opening credits montage sequence music was the fact that the credits went on an interminably long period of time.
Oh yeah, they did, yeah.
And they had all this footage. And what was making me laugh, and what I really wanted to point out during the... Just pop on an action.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, thanks, mate.
What I really wanted to point out, but we said we weren't going to say anything during the movie,
Oh, yeah, okay.
was there was this great theme song, which is another, like...
Which, by the way, I had no idea what they were saying. They kept repeating the same chorus. I couldn't make it out.
Oh God, I wish I was just singing it back in the thing. It was all like winning isn't everything; it's the only thing, and you've got to be the best. And
the chorus where they all sang together.
I know. I was just,
go. Or
I was just singing in the
I couldn't make out the words.
You've got to work it up or something like that.
Yeah, work it up. You've got to get to go.
Yeah. So anyway. Another thing that all romps have in common, which is why this fell very squarely into the romp category, and Mo will know this, but romps need to have a good theme song, right? Hamburger the movie, Hot Dog the movie, these all have great theme songs. Porky's, Hots, Splits, all these movies, they have great, like, 80s, we're having crazy times are happening, like, right. So that had this. And it went on interminably long. And what I noticed about the last 2 minutes of the song, I don't know if they were playing this live in the studio while the film was going, but it was literally like the music was continuing because they had to cover this exorbitantly long credit sequence. And the guy over the top had run out of lyrics and energy and care and everything else. It was just like, go over the top of this music. And then they would like go down a gear in the music and like slow it down a bit. But then the credits were still going, so you kind of heard it. I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but I kind of had this idea that the music was just like kept going. They were stuck in this recording loop of hell. And the guy was like, what do I sing now? I don't know, just vamp. You gotta go, you gotta work for it. Like, it was so funny. That had me in stitches. Anyway, then we cut to a sequence where they had mustered together. This was the big opening sequence. They had mustered together 10 people and a couple of picnic tables and a guy in a suit who was, as far as I could figure it, extolling the virtues of private industry over government meddling in athleticism.
While standing behind a giant sign, like advertising a company. There was some weird.
Meanwhile,
product placement.
Meanwhile, there was a whole bunch of questions about what are we going to do. The napkins haven't shown up. What is this all about? So then. Don't worry, Chief, I'll sort it out, says one of the kids, runs off to the kitchen and out of a paper towel dispenser removes the paper towel roll. Then proceeds to drag this roll in a horseshoe all the way around these 3 picnic tables so that everyone has this big, long, attached napkin. Then while this guy in the blazer is going on about private business and industry in America and all the rest of it. There, like a food fight kind of breaks out in a sort of small way. Then there's a tug of war over this fucking napkin. And I'm watching the movie going, really?
I tell you what, because again, I could visualise after that shot, them going, that was great, guys, that was so funny the way you did the tug of war. And everyone involved in it going, that was so fucking lame. behind their hands going, who are these people? And why do they keep wanting us to take our clothes off?
Why did we agree to this?
But the tug of war, so that's the thing. You reach the point with having the tug of war, which by the way is like the single lamest, unfunny thing I've possibly ever said. And you work backwards to the point of the dialogue. Well, how are we going to introduce that? Say the winning writers of Fatal Games. And they come up with
napkins.
Oh no, we've run out of napkins. And then the guy says, well, that doesn't matter. They go, what do you want to do? Just wipe their hands on the table? Yeah, that would be crazy. What kind of a post-apocalyptic mad world are we living in? Is the rule of law broken down completely? Where people are supposed to wipe their hands on a disposable tablecloth? Fortunately, some guy nearby
ran off and got napkins. So that was hilarious to me. I thought that...
This is around the point
where you had had enough.
Where I thought...
You'd already had enough. First scene of the movie, you'd already had enough.
Well, because that was swiftly followed by...
Another extended training montage.
Another training montage.
Well, this is what I was going to say.
2 terrible actors going... Blah, blah, blah.
This is what I was going to say about the whole, unknown actor thing. One thing I will say for the Hollywood star system is that when you watch a Hollywood movie, you know who's who. Do you know what I mean? Like, in other words, Tom Cruise doesn't show up halfway through a movie and you go, well, who's that then and what's he doing? You show up and you go, oh, he must be the hero. It's Tom Cruise, right? In this movie, there was one scene like you described where they went from a bedroom scene to the same couple being by the phone at night, filmed in almost pitch black. And you turned around and went, are they the same people?
What the thing that confused me was, it was night time when we'd last seen them.
Right, and they were in the middle of a scene that hadn't finished yet.
The scene hadn't finished. They were about to go to bed, and then, fast cut, what would you call it, hard cut.
Because they were doing all that playful...
To, like, the same two people standing in the darkness by a phone,
right.
Presumably, like, 24 hours later.
Also, you realise doing something, this is hilarious as well, this is what... This is another thing that I just realised about how hilarious it is. I was watching that whole sequence between... Oh yeah, because there was an entire sequence in this movie where this woman who's a gymnast, whose father doesn't want her to be a gymnast, even though she's one of the best gymnasts, which is like... All right.
What do gymnasts ever do? Gymnastics?
Yeah, right.
What do you want to hear?
They get a big endorsement deal.
What do you think was going to happen when you said, go to the academy that trains people to go to the Olympics? What are you ever going to do with this then?
Yeah.
Go to the Olympics? Like, the reason I'm here?
But, so anyway, she has this boyfriend, right? And it's never made clear whether she likes him or not, because as far as we can figure it, she hasn't let him touch her. She never stays over at his house. She doesn't want to do anything until they're married. Like, she's sending mixed signals wildly to this guy all the way through the movie. Hang on a second.
Sorry.
So she turns up after class. He's like, come back to my place. She's like, no. He's like, well, just come back to my place for a little bit. She's like, no. He's like, well, let's go get a burger then. And she's like, oh, I thought you'd never ask. What? Then they go get a burger, but wait a minute, no, it's her birthday. Another irrelevant detail to the whole film.
Come back to my place. No. Please come back to my place. No. All right, let's get a burger. Why did you say that in the first place? Because I wanted you to come back to my place. Also, it's your birthday.
So he has set up a surprise dinner with all these people. If she'd said
where do you
yes
get the best burgers in town, by the way?
Oh, at a Mexican.
Like, clearly they went, listen, local Mexican restaurant, can we film here? Yeah, and they went there and go, oh, there's this really great guitarist who plays there. Let's have 5 minutes of him singing.
Yeah.
Which they then do.
But what was hilarious is that if she had said, sure, I'll come back to your place, what would all the people in the Mexican...
What? You can imagine the conversation going, but what if she does go back to your place? Don't worry, she won't put out. Do not worry about that.
So, you can't decide if she likes him or not. Anyway,
My place is disgusting, as am I, so I'm sure.
we get to see her blow out her candles, they sing happy birthday to her, there's some
By the way,
hogwash.
that was absolutely, without question, the worst rendition of Happy Birthday I've ever heard. Everybody singing it was out of tune. I'm puzzled as to why these people were hired. They can't sing. Granted, that was fairly laid out the list of priorities. They also can't do any kind of sporting activity and look convincing. Some of the dives into the pool were singly the worst.
No, the best one was when they tried to film the 100 meters, and the guy left. What are they called when you left?
The blocks.
The blocks. That's it. He left the blocks like flailing his arms,
Yeah,
it
was brilliant. It was like
a
he had never
Caesaring.
run any. No, I tell you what it was like.
Like a Caesaring.
There was a
Steven
little
Seagal.
drama
It was like
going on
Steven
there.
Seagal having a Caesar, because when he runs, he flaps his arm
No,
around.
I'm telling
like
you, there was a
helicopter.
little drama going on there where he finally got his part in a big movie, right? Tiny part that he was going to make, he was going to own it.
Right.
But he didn't know quite what it involved. And then he said to him, yeah, listen, you'll be running. And then he flashed back to his childhood, the last time that he ran, where he looked so ridiculous that everyone at school, including his own mum, made fun of him. And since then, he's never run again. And now, at this moment, his big break, he has to run. And he gave it the beans, no question. I mean, he really gave it a try.
Including his mum.
The way his arms were moving around, he looked like someone who hadn't run since he was 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He looked like.
That's exactly what went on. I love to imagine that flashback right now. That's hilarious.
Nobody in that movie could do anything convincingly. They couldn't act. They couldn't even run convincingly.
No, and the funny thing was there was this guy who was about to be an Olympic gymnast who was like top of his class. When he tried to do a dismount, he like shattered his ankle.
No, he broke his shin.
Oh, he broke his shin?
He broke his shin.
Oh, okay.
It was a horrible crack. And it wasn't as if he like landed landed on the mat as you always would. And you're thinking, maybe you twist your ankle, but you don't break your shin.
Yeah,
unless you have serious...
Well, because he has been being pumped full of juice, I guess.
I don't think they reduce shin density. I mean, I'm just in mind.
Oh no.
But that's the thing, no one... Like the nurse who was like going on and on about like, oh, these, the drugs are bad for the kids.
Oh, this was the greatest thing when our final girl, female, got unbearable stomach cramps to the point where she was like doubled over in absolute agony. And as far as we were aware, these drugs could be eating holes in her stomach lining.
Because nobody knows.
The nurse goes, no, we can't take her to the ER because then they'll find out all about our doping children. So let's just take her back to my place where I'll give her a pillow and some tea. That apparently solves everything.
Well, it did, didn't it? She felt much better. and then we heard about her mum in the Berlin Olympics.
But it was yet another extraneous scene.
Yeah, the whole. It's like, you've got. Thank you very much. You've got to understand, right?
No, I didn't finish my point. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I never let you finish your point.
No, it's fine, because it's funny stuff. But so she goes to a birthday party. Right. Come out of the birthday party. They bump into two policemen. Again, irrelevant. Probably
how much did the uniforms alone cost?
Probably
for that scene? And they could have been dressed as hamsters for all the difference it made to the plot. But bumping into two random people, the end.
Cousins of the producer, I bet you anything.
No, I'm betting what happened was someone went, there aren't any policemen in this movie, that's a bit ridiculous. So let's put some policemen in. Where do we put them? Why don't we have them bump into the policemen after the Mexican restaurant scene?
Hello listeners, and can I just say a huge thank you for tuning in every week. It's absolutely fantastic that people continue to listen and hopefully enjoy the show. If you'd like to write in, and we would really love to hear from you and get some feedback, please do it at aftermoviediner@gmail.com or call us at 347-669-0053. If you don't want to spend the money on calling us, you can always use SpeakPipe directly from your computer at www.speakpipe.com/aftermoviediner, and you can leave up to a 90-second voicemail there completely for free. Now, I know this is the bit that not everyone likes, and they're like, shut up, we were listening to the show and we just want to go back to it, but the show is not free to produce, so we do have to obviously pay for meals every week. We obviously have to source the movie. We very often go to the cinema. That costs money. We have to put the show up online. Having the website costs money, running the URL, uploading the podcast, so on and so forth. There are charges involved. And also, we are looking to take the After Movie Diner on tour next year and come to a town near you and do diner episodes with either listeners or fans or past frequent guests on the show who live elsewhere. And we would love to come to those towns and talk to you guys and do diner shows all over the country and all over Canada and everywhere else. So we'd love to take the diner on tour next year as well. So please, please, please support the After Movie Diner over at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Likewise, you can buy the latest albums from Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures, including the fantastic Bad Time Banjalele, which we'll have a track from at the end of the show, over at miscplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. That's MISC plumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. Thanks ever so much for keep listening. Thanks ever so much for your support. If you can't afford to obviously monetarily support the show, that's absolutely fine. Just don't forget, rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TalkShoe, wherever you find us. Rate and review us. Share us with your friends. Tell people about us. The show doesn't grow without you guys helping it. So please, word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth, and rate and review us. Thanks so much, and now back to the show.
By the way, could we just talk, Crossy made the single best observation as to what this whole film looked like. The whole thing was filmed like a Monty Python sketch.
Like a 1970s film section.
Yeah, like a now for something completely different. It all looked like that. There was that level of production and like ever so slight weirdness with everything that was happening.
Yeah, because at one point they had this very static, tedious shot of the outside of an obviously faked Mexican restaurant, and two people in cycling gear went past on bikes. Now, Listen, I understand they're probably just getting that shot on the fly, and therefore the fact that two people cycle past, whatever. In a real movie, though, we're so used to seeing films where absolutely everything happens for a reason. So any extra or whatever, or any cyclist that goes by or whatever, it's there for a reason. It's there to create a scene or an ambience, or they're the characters are meant to be following, or it takes place while the Tour de France is going on or something. There'll be some reason why. But it was just the way they went past. It looked like Mr. Pither's cycling tour from Python or whatever. It was
when they wheeled him, I liked when they spent 20 minutes bandaging his broken shin, and then afterwards they went, right, let's call an ambulance. 20 minutes ago, surely call the ambulance.
Also, this is a big academy with lots of like.
Well, there are 8 students and 3 teachers, even though the building's fucking enormous.
So that's what I mean. And they have a faculty of 4 people, one of whom's a mad doctor, who's just being allowed to run roughshod. The only person is the nurse, to which they all basically say, "Shut up, nursey," and give them drugs.
Yeah, and there were too many ridiculous things.
Anyway, so we get off the track again. So anyway, bump into 2 cops. Then they go back to his apartment where there is an awful, you think they're having sex, but no, he's doing push-ups joke, which was awful.
Yeah.
Right? Then there was all this stuff about, why don't you just move in with me? And you were like, move in with you? She doesn't even like you. She doesn't want to take her clothes, doesn't want to touch you, doesn't want to get... Anyway, so she's shooting that down in flames. And they go into the kitchen, and there's all this cutesy stuff about, oh yeah, I've got to get rid of the garbage. And I was thinking, the only reason to have this building is because they're going to have a sex scene. Like, the only reason to do all this is to be like, oh, dough, but I like you anyway, blah, and then have, like, something of a sex scene. Because that's the only reason we're seeing her all night, and it's her birthday and everything like that. Nothing's been over with her. That was the point where the director chose to cut to the next night where they were both
I think they couldn't persuade the actress to take her clothes off. That's what I think happened. And I don't think they bothered rewriting the script.
Remove the birthday, remove all of that.
I know, but then they've got nothing left. That's the whole point. Because the other thing is, then it has that weird cut to, like, later, like, the next night, they're outside on the phone, and then there's like, so try to imagine we've sat through that, right? And then there's a phone conversation. No, I can't move in with you because my dad wouldn't approve. My grades, like, this is the thing. And then that just, like, disappears because she, like, there's no point in that because she stays at the academy. No, because she stays at the academy.
No, there is a point. The point is to get her alone.
When?
She is stalked by the javelin killer that first night. She doesn't know about it because if you remember, the other 2 break in and start.
Oh yeah, but no. But I'm talking about that whole plot of her dad threatening to kick her out. Oh yeah, okay.
Not her dad threatening to kick her out. They were meant to spend. Oh no, this is what happened. Her boyfriend, who up until this point.
Oh no, that's right. That's what I wanted to say. After the phone call, then there's a whole subplot of, oh, my dad wants to, like, send me to Pittsburgh. Send me to Pittsburgh. That ruins our summer plans. By the way, what summer plans? We've heard nothing about summer plans. And by the way, now she's really disappointed they're not going to be spending the summer together. By the way, what summer? Is it winter?
So like,
is it spring? What are we talking about?
So she goes off to the sauna by herself in the darkness with nothing but a towel.
That's when she has a cry. So yeah, that's my point. That is from the boyfriend subplot. So the whole my dad doesn't approve thing.
Her dad not approving that. She said, we came up to some sort of agreement and now my schedule is like 24 hours long. So she just has this really mad schedule.
Yeah, but their schedule is jumping up and down a lot, pretty much, or doing the parallel bars,
or showering naked.
But no one learns anything.
No, nothing.
There is mention of a textbook at one point. She goes back to get the textbook. That happens.
This school is exceptionally easy to break into.
It's also the javelin is cool. And actually, the first 2 deaths with the javelin are good.
And there were some nice shots in it.
Yeah.
And some good ideas.
Where were the good ideas?
Of the composition of shots.
Of the javelin.
And although it wasn't a very good payout, I did like the way the swimming built up. The way she was like, she was first doing laps, then they got quicker, then you knew the killer was underneath the water. Like, that was a nice build-up.
It was. No, it was a nice build-up. And then you're waiting for that big build-up, waiting for the big build-up, and then, like, nothing happens.
Because the trouble is once you've seen the benefit that something like the other slasher movies have, especially like something like Pieces or something like Happy Birthday to Me or whatever it is that you can kill someone a million different ways. Like the best thing about the slasher films is always to see, well, what ludicrous, painful thing are they going to do?
There must be other fatal sporting equipment. They briefly tried the shot put, didn't they? She picked up a shot put late on in the movie.
Right.
To try and kill somebody.
Ice skates.
No, that'll be the luck for us.
Ice skates, I guess.
Ice skates.
Well, it's
work.
Winter Olympics, but
yeah, that's true.
not that this had any consistency.
Pole vaulting.
That's another pole, though.
Yeah, that's true. There was racing spikes.
Yeah, I mean there were weights.
Weights would do.
She was doing weights at one point.
Yeah, you could like strangle somebody with weights. You could like hit somebody with racing spikes until like they die.
Well, you could strangle some. You could bash someone over the head with a strangle someone with a skipping rope. Don't they have those things?
So wedded to the javelin.
Well, right, which felt cumbersome and awful throughout the movie. But when you find out the ending, it made sense.
I'm not sure it did.
No, it did, because that was her...
Really? That was her sport?
Yes. That's the whole point of the film.
How do you know that was her sport?
What?
How do you know that was her sport? They just had a picture of her... Was she throwing a javelin on the newspaper?
I don't know, but I assumed as much.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But what if it wasn't? What if she was like a... I don't think she was.
Well, why was she then carrying the javelin if she wasn't a javelin thrower?
Because the people who made up the film, that was their idea, to use a javelin to kill people.
I think now you're just being silly. I think it's...
How am I being silly?
Because I think it's clear.
Because they don't know what they're doing and they didn't care.
No. If you have a character... I've got to reveal the ending now. If you have a character whose sole reason for doing it is because they tried absolutely everything to compete and win in the Olympics, but failed, right?
Right.
And you have them killing people solely with a javelin, I'm going to assume that their sport was the javelin, and not that their sport was parallel bars, and she just picked up the javelin because it seemed like the best option.
But here's my question, right?
So that's why she was married to the javelin, because that was part of her character.
Right, but you're assuming, I don't think the picture on the newspaper had her holding a javelin.
It doesn't matter what the picture of the newspaper had.
It was a picture of her, like, doing sport. With the headline...
Okay, this is a pointless discussion to be having. She used the javelin throughout the movie. I'm assuming javelin.
But I'm saying, I don't think they were wedded to the idea, other than the fact that they thought that killing people with a javelin was a neat idea, and a neater idea might have been to kill people in a variety of different ways. That would have been more interesting.
I agree, but I think the reason why...
Are you saying that the people who wrote and made this film were more wedded to narrative logic
yes.
than what might look good?
No, not
because all the evidence suggests otherwise.
No, I think...
They don't care about any of it.
No, I think that they were...
Well, you're saying they did care, but they were just hopelessly bad.
Yes.
Okay. I guess that can work.
I think they strongly... I think they thought in order for us to... I think they got halfway through the movie and they were like, shit, we haven't established any other red herrings apart from Joe, the angry javelin thrower, and it's clearly not going to be him. And then they suddenly thought, well, wait a minute, we don't really like any of these kids, they're all a bit arseholes, so let's write some stuff in where they're being cutesy with each other. I think it was literally like they tried but just failed. And in terms of like, if you're going to have the ending be that someone who failed at the Olympics has been going around killing someone, and the only thing they've been killing people with is javelin, I'm going to assume that their sport was javelin, and not get wrapped up in did we ever see her hold a javelin before? Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, I don't think, given the strength of the narrative, given the strength of everything else, every other decision in this movie that was made, which was totally haphazard.
Does it matter?
Well, it just could have been better, that's all.
No, but let's say...
What does anything matter? We're all just meaningless specks on a meaningless rock, spinning through a meaningless universe.
But let's say, for argument's sake, that she was
the world has meaning. Okay, fine.
Right?
But let's start.
And they were married.
Let's say the world has meaning and we have meaning.
No.
And further along down the line, right, much further along down, we say that. Yeah, that's what we say.
But let's just say, for argument's sake, they stuck with the javelin because she was a javelin thrower.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. That's all I want to say. Let's just say that and move on.
Let's just all say Goldfinger and be done with it.
Goldfinger. Yes. We're all bloody Goldfinger. So,
Someone had Goldfinger. You've seen a lot more crappy slasher films. I thought this was, other than...
no, this was one of the lowest rent slasher films I've seen.
The first Javelin Draft was easily the best. Because it was a bit of a shock and looked pretty cool.
And I don't know how they did it, because they literally...
The second
you
one...
saw an actress standing still, and then you saw her get impaled with a javelin, and it
was a neat effect. Okay. That had no build-up.
After that, it was literally people holding it between their arm and their waist.
Yeah. But also, there was a lot of people running away and screaming from the javelin.
That was quite nice. The woman, the woman who was in the sauna naked, who then got chased back to
that
school.
was cool. That was my
done.
point. That was when
Except,
she should have run out the
noticed?
back and then javelin for a long... Because at no point did we see her prowess with the javelin.
No,
right?
but do you know what I noticed?
Sorry.
But we did do.
No, I'm just saying while they were... No, I know, but while they were running. It's much more difficult to hit a moving target, and that would have looked cool.
Okay.
What? How is that? How is what I'm saying like total madness?
Well, because what was good about that sequence was that you had her like running about while you had the people nonchalantly outside, and that was what they were trying to do. Again, incompetently.
Yeah, but she could have run out the back of the building. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Like, you get to have your
right.
Let's just say she runs out of the back of the building, right? I.e.,
Except that what I said, let's just say it was to do with actually the film. But okay, carry on.
All right. Well, let's just shut your face. Let's say she runs out the back, right? Okay. So she's not disturbing the people at the front, like you say. So she's running away from the standard slasher thing, right? They run away from the slasher, and you think they've gotten away, only they haven't really. So she runs out of the back and makes a good distance down that plane.
I understand what you're saying, dude, but that's not the point of the sequence that they were trying to do.
Well, why not? What would be wrong with that?
Nothing would be wrong with it. That would be a separate sequence.
It wouldn't be a separate sequence. It would be the end of the same sequence. She'd still get to run around in the school. But I'm saying instead of after a bit of running around the school, she kind of turns around and then she gets stabbed. It was a bit like, you've got to admit, it's a bit underwhelming. But everything up to that point was good. But what if instead of ending there?
But then it didn't end there, because then what happened was, is our final girl went into the school, again, didn't turn any lights on, even though she was looking for her exercise clothes. And that was meant to be the tense moment, because her friend was dead underneath the lockers, and she'd dropped her padlock and blah, 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 blah. They were trying to create tension. It wasn't to do with... It wasn't a sequence to do with, well, how far can she throw the
but I think that should have been there. That would have been neat. It was the only thing that was missing from the whole thing. Especially the whole point of her, right, if she's like a big javelin frickin' expert, well, at some point we should see her throw the javelin a really, really long way to hit somebody running away.
Okay.
I know you say that she did, but why are you being so obtuse? You know what I'm saying.
She was all the way
Why are you speaking? But why? You know what I'm saying. You understand what
You want to add another death sequence to this movie, which I have no problem with.
No, I'm just saying, why wasn't that death sequence in it when it was bleeding obvious?
Because they think that they did do that death sequence with Joe's death.
No.
You didn't think they did, but they
No,
think
you're saying the important thing here is distance, and I'm not saying it's distance.
Is this credit or debit?
Either is fine. Debit is fine.
Oh, debit, you'd have to come with me because I can't take your pen.
Oh, credit is first.
That's nice that I bring back the table though. The important thing is not distance. The important thing is at the point that you think the person has gotten away.
I know, dude.
Actually, but what's wrong with me suggesting this? Why am I all of a sudden like Captain No Clue just because I was suggesting a neat death sequence? No, I know they did that. No, but I'm saying they didn't do that. Well, I know they didn't do that. Why wouldn't you do it? They did. Let me have my death sequence.
I'm not saying you can't.
It's a movie about
People will actually hear me say, if you want to add that death
right to the after movie diner.
If you listen, that never works.
If you think
I'm
brilliant,
nobody ever
writes hashtag Jim's the best.
Nobody ever writes anything.
Let's get it started on Twitter. Hashtag Jim is right.
Aftermoviediner at gmail.com 347-669.
Hashtag re-javelins, Jim equals best.
347-669-0053. And please all write in and tell Jim that I very clearly stated that if he wants to add a whole new death sequence in which javelins go flying through the air at a long or short or moderate
No, I think distance isn't the point.
Considering distance is the point.
No, but
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
what I'm saying is, the slasher convention. No, that's it.
Well, there isn't a place to put it on there, so I'll have to.
Oh, cash check. At the time that you think the person's gotten away, that's a time where the javelin prowess can get somebody. It just seems like such an obvious thing to put in a slasher film. Plus, it would be a really cool use of the javelin. There's only so many ways you can use a javelin, and that would be really cool to trap somebody in that way.
Agreed.
That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Agreed.
Hashtag. That's all.
You could equally.
I'm going to stop doing the hashtag thing. It's a
You
bit
could
annoying.
equally have set up 6 javelins and gone to the top of the bleachers with someone who you'd battered about the head with a weight, picked them up and thrown them down onto a pincushion of javelins.
You could have used somebody.
No problem.
You
Thank
You could
you
have
much.
you could have sharpened somebody's head and used them as a javelin. I'm just saying.
Yes, you could have sharpened somebody's head and used them as
Or
a
you could have
javelin.
stuck a javelin through them, like through the bottom of their foot,
Listen.
right, all the way through them, up to the top of their skull, and then thrown that at somebody else. I'm just saying, there's room for,
I agree.
expansion.
I agree.
What is America? What, right?
Yes.
Except, adapting
Understood.
and improving.
And if you want to make the statement that they were not the most inventive and imaginative with the deaths, I will wholeheartedly stand right next to you and
But a little
say,
bit behind, going,
No, I agree with you. I just don't.
really quietly, guys, so I can't quite hear.
You kept going like, well, why didn't they do this? Well, they didn't do it because they didn't have the imagination, the wherewithal, whatever,
Yeah,
to
right.
do it. And they already felt that they had shown the prowess and distance by the Joe sequence, even though you felt that was underwhelming and ill-explained, which I agree it was, but that's what they felt they were doing.
Yeah, all right. No, okay.
That's
I take,
my only
I take,
point.
I take your point.
Other than that, I'm agreeing.
Once again, you win.
No, other hashtag Crossy's best. No, I completely agree. I'm standing by you with there could have been more inventive deaths. She could have put a javelin with 2 people either end and stood them up like a like an H and made help out of people and
And
javelins.
have one going through somebody's eye, like at least.
Right, but that requires prosthetic heads and. Whereas it doesn't cost anything to have someone
I'll
hold a
be
javelin
amazed.
between their waist and their arm and then fall down slightly on a feeling.
What do you think the odds are that every single person that worked on this film ever worked again? Like, what do you think the odds are? I think they're quite high.
What, that they worked again?
Yeah. Who do you think worked again in the whole movie? I'm talking top to bottom. Who do you think worked again? Maybe the soundtrack though. Maybe he worked again.
I would say a couple of the kids probably had small roles and other stuff.
Really? Who?
Well, the lead girl probably.
But she was like, she couldn't act. She looked like
The nurse
She
woman.
looked like a kind of
The nurse probably
a
did.
pat of butter.
Because I recognise the nurse's name.
Maybe the nurse wasn't bad actually. The nurse wasn't.
I recognise the nurse's name.
Yeah,
I had
the
a
nurse was
feeling that
bad.
she was like the big name draw at the
okay.
time.
Because the coach was the
She was
writer.
probably on a soap
the
opera.
doctor was terrible. But she could act, you're right.
The
nurse
doctor
could act.
was straight out of Frankenstein. Like he was like, "But this is my work. You don't seem to understand.
He kept
This
taking
is my
phone calls
entire life."
He took the phone call like 1 a.m. from the nurse with,
Right.
with the girl with the stomach cramps. And she went, look, it's really bad. She's got stomach cramps. The drugs aren't working. Okay, well, monitor a condition and talk to me in the morning. And then put the phone down and goes back to his paper. What was that for?
No, none of it was for anything. So anyway,
So that's what you think. So soundtrack?
soundtrack
Women
guy,
plays a
nurse
nurse.
guy, and maybe the final girl.
I don't. Maybe. By virtue of having gotten the lead in this movie.
No, I
maybe
tell you who worked again. All the women who did full naked things.
But that was weird. They were just in the background. They weren't even like
No,
full
but they
characters.
all worked again because they were all willing to take their clothes off. So that means they've all. I would go dollars to donuts that at least 4 of the women who took their clothes off in this appeared in at least one other sex romp from the 80s, Porky style,
All right. Okay. All right. I guess I could.
I bet one of them was in Hots or Splits or one of those, or like what
Do you think it was
My
like a
Private
local thing?
Tutor.
Like, did you? Maybe the guitarist in the Mexican restaurant, he might have worked again.
He probably worked every night on tips.
Yeah, poor son.
Yeah.
Do you think it was filmed it didn't really have anything regional about it, right? Like, I'm thinking, because films like this, they're usually like made in like mad, like St. Louis.
You're now asking questions. I didn't look up the movie, so I can't answer any of these questions.
I was just wondering.
What I normally do when you ask these kind of questions is I then like punch in later on when I'm editing the answers to these questions.
Okay. You were going to do that this time? You can if you like.
Maybe I
What
will.
time is it?
So the answers to these questions are that almost every single member of the cast worked again. The weird thing is that the lady Sally Kirkland, whose name I recognised, who I believe played the nurse, although she's just listed on IMDb as Diane Payne, looked nothing like the Sally Kirkland that I've seen in other movies, and I've seen Sally Kirkland in lots of different movies. She's most notably in Bullseye with Michael Caine and Roger Moore, the fantastic Michael Winner film. She's also in Best of the Best with Eric Roberts. And that's who I thought we were going to be watching in this film. But then when I saw the actress in the movie, I was like, oh, it must be a different Sally Kirkland. But no, IMDb is claiming it's the same Sally Kirkland, even though they look completely different. So that's a bit confusing. But we were right. The composer did work again. However, the writer and director of this movie, they didn't work again. There was a movie that they wrote called To Kill a Stranger, which they did screenplay revisions on. That's it. But they didn't direct it or anything like that. They merely did screenplay revisions on. And Donald Pleasance was in that. But why, after Fatal Games, were they brought in to do a revision on a Donald Pleasance film? I have no idea. But anyway, we were right about the composer. He worked a lot. And every single actor and actress in this seemed to work again. And again, I was right. One of the actresses did appear in the 80s romp Hard Bodies. So that was right as well. Okay, so success there, I feel.
Oh, 10:05.
We have to go.
Perfect. Hey, that actually worked out quite well, didn't
Well,
it?
thank you very much, Jim. Another fantastic episode. We didn't mention the guy who was on crutches for the second half of the movie and ran around. I felt like if they
With a broken shin.
yes, if they cranked the speed up just a
Just
little
because you've
bit.
got a cast on doesn't mean your shin is in absolute agony.
I know. I think if they cranked the speed up a little bit and added yakety sax to it, it would have been an excellent Benny Hill sequence.
Agreed.
Anyway, with that, Jim, thanks ever so much.
Thank you for having me on.
After we've done it in the Goldmine Cafe, which has done us well this
It has.
very
I've
evening.
enjoyed it very much. Thanks
All right,
very much,
sir.
man.
Excellent. Let's go.
Cool.
I'd also like to mention, please check out Hold the Mayo podcast over at holdthemayopodcast.libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com. Also check out the Moten Media Infomercial podcast over at moternmedia.com. That's MOTERN media.com. Oh, and check out our 3 music videos on YouTube. That's www.youtube.com/omno productions. OMNO productions. And now to play us out, some Bad Time Banjolele and a piece of the action. Getting a piece of the action is never a piece of cake. Everything has an opposite and equal reaction. There's no mistake. There was nothing I could have done. My heart was always gonna break. Clutching at straws even when you know that they're all short. Try to find comfort in everything you bought, but you're not what it says on the poster, and you've been caught. Highway road, East Arizona. I knew then it was over, but something can't finish if you don't let it start. It's time to put this horse before the cart. We'll lose confusing. Try to accept that things improve, but you keep refusing. And I know that there'll be moments, and I know I'm not quite there, and I know that I'll put obstacles in our way, but you say you just don't care. Getting a piece of the action is never a piece of cake. All my emotions are autumn leaves and you're the rake. You could handle the give, but not the take. No, 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 not the take. Highway road in PA. I was in the car, you were on your way. There was nothing that